Indiana. It's February of 2013. I've been rebuilding salvage cars for 40 years. I actually did my very first one when I was 15 years old. I didn't even have my driver's license. A buddy of mine's mom, I think alcohol was involved. She had a crash, knocked the front end off her Buick Electra. And we went to a salvage yard and bought a dog house, the front sheet metal, and me and her son, my friend, took off the crashed front end, put on the other front end. It was a different color, but the parts were a different color. But she didn't have anything but liability insurance, and she was without a car and working single mom. And in 2 days, in her yard, I fixed my first rebuilder. And she was back on the road, and she was really happy. Once I got my driver's license, I started buying cars from the local salvage yard, you know, just minor damage. My first career was auto body repairman. I went to tech school. I became a heavy damage collision specialist. End of the history on why I know what I'm doing. But what I've been doing for 35 years, in addition to buying cars with collision damage, is flood cars. And the purpose of this movie is to kind of dispel some of the myths about flood cars. You see the 60 Minutes episode, and a few things. Saltwater flood cars, don't even consider them. The salt is extremely corrosive. So cars near the ocean, Katrina, the ones along the coast in the New York flood here in 2012. No, just consider those not an option. What we do here in the Midwest is some cars get flooded really deep, and this car behind me is a Toyota Corolla that is a flood car that we're doing now for my friend Mike. He's going to drive it. Carpet flood is the ones we buy. These are cars that are in parking lots or along the street. Heavy torrential rain comes. Water comes up, not real deep, but it seeps in the door openings around the gaskets and gets in there on the rugs. Doesn't get in the engine, doesn't get in the transmission. It's not high enough. Think about it. Cars are designed to run down the interstate at 75 miles an hour in pouring down torrential rain, following a semi-truck that's giving you a blast of water, and to do that all day long. That means is everything under the hood, everything under the car, everything is designed to be able to go through water, to cross a steep or a deep puddle. So the bottom of the car got wet. The bottom of the car gets wet every time you drive in the rain. Every time you follow a truck on the interstate, all of your engine compartment gets wet because the water comes right through the radiator. Okay? So we're talking about deep floods are the ones that the car's dead. Forget it. Don't buy that. When they get carpets wet, you got to think, wow, well, what happens? They can get mildew and then they smell really bad. And there's jute felt padding, which I'll show in this video, and under the carpet that gets all wet and gets full of mold. You just don't dry it or vacuum it and then drive it. No, there's a procedure which I've been doing for years and I've perfected. But what's most important when you buy a salvage flood car is you got to look for the tells that tell you how deep it was. Why do insurance companies total cars that have wet carpets? Well, it's very simple. It's because if they take the seats out and dry the carpet, like we're going to show you in this video, 5 years from now, if the transmission goes out, and it's completely irrelevant to the fact that the carpet got wet, but say it does, the client that owned that car that the insurance company repaired is going to say, it's because of the flood, now you have to pay for the transmission. So what the insurance companies have done over the years is they've realized anytime someone has a water claim, pay it off. They pay the person for the car goes into salvage, person like me buys it, and I drive the wheels off of it. I'm driving a Toyota Yaris right now. I've put 35,000 miles on in 2 years. It's my personal car. Had a carpet flood. I've had 0 problems with it. But remember a few things, and then I'm going to show you this job. You probably won't be able to borrow money on a carpet flood car because it has an insurance salvage title. You can't trade it in at a car lot because it's going to have a nasty Carfax. You can't probably sell it on the street very easily unless you sell it really cheap because it's going to also have a Carfax. What happens in Indiana is when you have this salvage title and you get the car, you submit some documents saying you did this specific thing to it to fix it, and a policeman checks the VIN numbers. You send all this into the State Bureau of Motor Vehicles. You get back a title that in small print on the corner, it says rebuilt flood vehicle. And it carries that badge for life. If you take it to another state, it doesn't matter. It's badged for life, the scarlet letter, flood vehicle. Okay. Many people watching this video are going, I don't want any part of this. Great. I want to tell you, me and my friends and my family, we drive cars and we have no car payments. I haven't had a car payment for about 20 years, and I drive really nice late model cars. But I can't borrow money at the bank because the bank won't loan me money on a flood car, a salvage title. So this is for people who have some cash and can make an investment. And I think personally of a car as a tool. So the fact that the title is marked doesn't really mean anything to me. I'm going to drive that thing 50 or 70 or 100,000 miles. It's my tool. And the fact that I'm in it for 1/3 or maybe 1/2 of the price of going and buying that same used car from a used car lot with a clean title and no car payments. If it does have some malfunction, which I've been very fortunate for 35 years, having no problems with my flood cars, but if it does, you're not making a monthly payment. So if it takes $500 to fix something, you're not making payments. So that's my philosophy, and other people may disagree with how I look at this. But anyway, on with the movie. The 2007 Corolla is out of Western New York, so yes, it's hurricane related, but yes, it's freshwater rain flood. Wet carpets. We drove it home from salvage, and it has 16,000 actual miles, and it is a loaded Corolla LE, and we bought this car for just a little over $5,000, and on the used car lots right now, you'll see them all day long here in early 2013 for 12 grand, a 2007 Corolla. Here we go. Thank you for watching. We were really lucky on this car. A lot of times with cars in general, whether they're out of the salvage field or whether they're just off the street, they have little dings and dents. I call it urban battle damage. This car hasn't anything, absolutely nothing. Not a single door ding, no scratches, nothing. And we've got the hubcaps off. But here we have a really nice Corolla, and it had wet carpets. What you want to look for when you first look at a car that's got a carpet flood, most of the people that are reselling salvage cars that were flood cars, they're not messing with the ones that were deep because they won't even run. Nobody will buy a salvage flood car that doesn't run, like us. The car's got to run and drive. The very first thing I look for, you can look down here in the engine. Can you see down there? That's the oil filter. If I see a brand new shiny oil filter on there, you can see this one's kind of got some road film on it, I walk away. Why? Why? Because it means that they changed the oil and put a new filter on. Why did they change the oil? Because it had water in the engine, probably. So the next thing I do, this is when I'm inspecting these before I buy them, is I pull the transmission oil dipstick, which is right here. These Toyotas are nice because everything's real easy to get to. And if my transmission fluid is not brand new but used and nice and bright red, if transmission fluid has any water in it at all, it's going to look like a strawberry milkshake. Then I get underneath the car and I look at the transmission pan. There's a drain plug there, and what I want to see on that drain plug is nothing. I don't want to see wrench marks. There's no reason a 2007 car would have ever had the transmission oil drained. Then I look at the air filter, and it should be the original one with some debris in the filter, and it should have never been wet. Then I go inside, general inspection of the underhood. And I go inside the car, and the very first thing I do is I pop out the glove compartment and look at the cabin air filter. Now, again, we're just talking about Toyotas in general. Here we have the glove box. On these Toyotas, you just jockey the glove box left and right, and it just comes right out just like that. Cabin air filter is underneath there. It's in a little tray. If that cabin air filter has been wet, then you've got water this deep in the car, and at that point I just walk away. But then I look at the different places, the shifter, and I look in the doors. Down here in the door pocket, This should be nice and clean, or maybe if I'm lucky it'll have some little things in there like some gum wrappers and things like that that have not been wet. Sometimes you can actually see a water line on a car. And on this one, you can, I don't know if you'll see it, but there's a water line on this car and it's running right here. You can just, I don't know if you can make it out. When you're looking, this is the speaker, and there's a little bit of a change in color, and it runs right along here. That's the water line on this car. So if you look across that water line, you can plainly see that no water would have been above anything here. That's the way the water line goes, okay? Anyway, when we take the carpet out, the seats and the carpet, we unplug the seats. We use an electrical cleaner lubricant spray, very common for computer type people. We spray in these plug-ins, and then there's some wiring that's here, and we've got it disconnected. It's really simple stuff. It just unplugs. We spray this cleaner lubricant in there just to be sure. Now, looking across the car here, we got some good light you can see. What we have here is the seat belt mechanism. Little yellow plug-in. These have a little pyrotechnic device inside. At the moment that you have a collision and airbags deploy, that little device fires, and it, on some cars it actually retracts the seat belt slightly. On other cars it just locks it. A little pin fires and locks the belt. It just doesn't move. That's to hold you in position. Got Scruffy there. He's helping. Anyway, you can see on that seatbelt mechanism is a translucent cover. If that's been wet, there's going to be moisture in there. And obviously, that wasn't wet on this car. Then the next thing I do is, this is still while I'm looking at a car after I've got it apart. But when I'm looking at the car still in the salvage yard, I pull the seatbelt all the way out, to completely out. And then if the seatbelt has been wet, it's going to be damp down here on the belt itself. And the reason is because when that belt's all spooled up, if that's had water in there, down there in that spool, it's going to still be damp. That doesn't dry out for a long time. Okay, now on the floor on these cars, you have some vents. This is what they look like. This actually goes underneath this brace and it connects here. This is to give backseat passengers some air, some heat in the winter so their feet don't get cold. I take these out because they'll have water in them, and there you can see, if you look at it here, there's a low spot. They'll have standing water in them sometimes, and I take them out and I wash them out with a little bit of a bleach solution. Make sure there's no bacteria in there. Now the white you're seeing on the floor, for instance there, this is residue from my bleach solution. I use a pumper sprayer and I kind of bleach the floor pans. What that does is it absolutely kills any bacteria, just absolutely. On this car, we were lucky the water wasn't even deep enough to rise over the rear seat hump here. So there was no water anywhere in this back seat area at all. And I think this car was parked along a curb because the water was a little deeper on the right side than on the left side. The water line over on the other side of the car is not as high, and so the water was a little deeper on the right carpet. So then we took the carpet out completely after you remove the seats. It's not difficult. And we put that carpet up on a place we have here in the shop and up near the heat by the ceiling, and keeping it right side up, gravity drains that water out of the jute felt padding. This is not something you do overnight. These jobs typically take us a week or 10 days. We're just patient. So this is the rug out of the car, okay? And this is the back part where the back seat is. And this is where the passenger seat is. Okay. This felt right here was not wet, but this lower felt was. So for a few days it sat just like you see it, but up near the ceiling. And the water drained out and this dried. And then actually it did smell a little bit, so that meant that there was some bacteria in there, some mold, fungus. There are a lot of products. This one here I get at Menards. This is a reasonably safe product, no ammonia or bleach or VOCs, but it does absolutely kill mold bacteria. I mean, it is just a 100% effective. So what I do is I use this garden sprayer, You can see it right here. And this stuff, you don't dilute it, you just put it in there. So I turn the carpet upside down with the jute felt facing up, and I saturate it. Half a gallon is what I ended up using on this job. This is about $16 a gallon. And I saturate that jute felt with the carpet turned upside down. That lets this liquid go completely through that material. And then I dry it like that up by the ceiling for a few days. And then that makes sure that completely through that jute felt padding, the bacteria is dead. Then I put the carpet up again like this, and then I just run a fan on it for another day or two to be certain that it's absolutely dry. And then I can reuse the carpet. Alternatively, if the carpet's, stinky and you just don't want to do through that procedure, I have in the past bought carpet out of a crashed car. You go to the salvage yard and there's one hit in the front, and the salvage yard sells you the carpet, for $50 or whatever. And that's an alternative as well. On these Toyotas, there's only a few carpet colors available, so it's really easy to find a gray carpet for a Corolla. They're the same for years. This Corolla here, like I say, 16,000 actual miles, loaded, LE, power, everything. My friend Mike, he's going to have a marked title, an Indiana title that's going to say rebuilt flood vehicle. And Mike's going to drive this car for years. And he's not going to have a car payment. So Mike is like me. He thinks of a vehicle like this as a tool. We don't care that it's an 07 right now at the time of this video. It's 5 years old car, but it only has 16,000 miles on it. So for him, it's a brand new car. And so Mike here, in a few more days, will be driving an incredibly low mile, really nice, optioned out Corolla, and he won't be making any payments. And rebuilding a carpet flood car is not for everyone. I didn't make this video for any personal gain of any time. I'm not in this business reselling these cars. I've just been driving them for 35 years, and my family members, and this is just what we do. And there's a process you go through to inspect them before you buy them, and then there's a process that takes a little time to properly repair them. And this is what we do. So thank you for watching. Sorry if it was boring. If it was boring, you probably already turned me off. Adios.